Today's topic that we will explore is writing nonfiction 101. This topic is important to me, one, because I'm an avid reader of nonfiction books. I enjoy reading books about Black history, leadership biographies, and also related to travel and global issues. So, in thinking about that, I want to share a little inspiration from my own journey. For me, as a civil rights attorney, research has been key to my work. It has helped me to understand policy advocacy, to advocate more effectively for my clients, and just overall to prepare myself to write on many civil rights topics like racial disparities in education or in the criminal justice system. I'm also a leadership scholar, so you will find me conducting qualitative and quantitative research on leadership strategies, how to build and sustain social change, and more importantly, what are the leadership characteristics that are at the core of social justice advocacy? In addition, of course, I'm a children's book author. I have written over 30 nonfiction genre books for children that explore topics everything from the Harlem Renaissance to looking at Black achievements in STEM. I'm also a publisher, so I am reviewing and also seeking out new nonfiction titles. And in addition, as a bookseller, I am looking for what are the new books, what are the new hot topics, and how are books helping to inform our understanding and decision making around organizational development, around policy, and overall touching on areas of systems change and community engagement. And also, as a literacy advocate, I am always looking for new books to read. Once again, on nonfiction related to the topics that I work on within my work of education and criminal justice. So, how does this all tie together? It means then that nonfiction is not only what I'm reading, but nonfiction is also what I'm writing. And when I put those pieces together, I wanted to share just a few basic tips on preparing yourself. If you're thinking about going on that journey of writing nonfiction, I want to help provide you with the key tools that will support you. And this could be for someone who has previously only written fiction and creative pieces, poetry, maybe spoken word, but you'd like to take it in a different direction to look at something with historical significance or to learn more about a leadership profile of someone who's inspired you. So there would be a myriad of different reasons why you may explore this topic of nonfiction writing. But it is my pleasure, my honor, and privilege to share with you some of the lessons that have been important to me as I go on this journey of writing nonfiction works. So, first of all, let's look at the significance of research in nonfiction writing. It's beyond just saying, I'm going to pick up a pen and start writing on a topic. It is about researching and getting a deeper understanding of your topic to inform and engage others. And why is research essential? Because in nonfiction, we're looking to substantiate your work. We're looking to, for instance, when I'm going on a research journey, I like to look at and read all the source notes and footnotes to find additional research to bolster the areas that I'm exploring, to get greater clarity, and to, since I primarily look at civil rights issues, to historically understand the context of that of which I'm studying and trying to gain a deeper understanding related to. So, research is the very foundation of nonfiction writing because by performing research and conducting research, I can find the core elements around my topic, learn more, and for instance, since I write a lot of leadership biographies, connect the person that I'm writing about, to the context of history that was surrounding them at that time. So, case in point, writing a book about Biddy Mason was amazing, to say the least. But I had to understand what were the things that she was working on as the grandmother of modern day downtown Los Angeles, of a very, and also a very successful real estate entrepreneur, philanthropist, leader in her community. What was inspiring her? And what inspired her to buy land? Why was that significant? And in addition to that, to even help buy land to build her church. What were some of those things that motivated her? Of course, as I learned more about her, I learned about a principle that inspired her: service to others. I learned about the fact that she knew by serving others that she would have a greater impact of a legacy that could inspire change. So as I started to research, I learned more about her as an entrepreneur, but I also learned more about her as a midwife, that she was able to save her money from serving as a midwife to help pay for the properties that she purchased. Why was that important? Because all of a sudden I was learning not just about her role as a midwife, but also something that was very interesting about her was her ability to understand natural remedies for healing and restoration. So all of a sudden, I found myself wanting to learn more about those pieces of her work as well. So here it is. I'm learning more about why she invested in real estate, why it was important to her to serve others and to help build her church. But I also was learning about what was her source of income, what kept her going, and what motivated her related to change. And I only could do that related to research. I was able to follow her journey. I was able to explore some of the writings from her grandchildren about her history, about who she was, and some of the lessons that she taught. That's why research matters. It's essential. I couldn't speculate and say, well, Biddy Mason, oh, the grandmother of modern day Los Angeles, she was a hard worker. That it was important, but what type of work did she do? Why? How? When? Where? What formulated her essence around her work ethic? What was she seeking to leave as a legacy of change? I only could find some of those answers through research. And in addition to working on research related to her history, I could also understand the context of the times that she lived in, that she, through the support of her friends, fought for her own freedom from enslavement through the court system. What did that look like? Oh, of course, I had to read the related case and help to understand what was happening. What were the legal arguments and what strategies did she use to fight for her freedom and the freedom of her family? I hope you're getting excited now. You can see what the power of research can do to take you on a journey of exploration that helps you bring clarity around some of the subject matter that you may be interested in. So, what's an example of well researched nonfiction books and how can it have a meaningful impact? There's just two examples that are personal to me. The first one, The New Jim Crow, written by Michelle Alexander, stood out to me because as a young attorney, I received a review copy of this particular book, actually signed by Michelle Alexander herself, because I had a chance to meet her. And what stood out to me was she was able to tell a story that I knew existed, but I could not explain it in meaningful ways. And that was the story that was truly a reality that I saw even myself growing up. Well, was what was the impact of the war on drugs in the African American community and beyond? What is mass incarceration? And by identifying it, it then led to the premise of what can we do to help dismantle this pipeline into the tangled web of mass incarceration. And the reason why I say tangled web, because by reading the book, I could see that there are far too many entry points into the prison gates and far fewer exit points. As a young attorney, that ignited my passion around addressing criminal justice reform in meaningful ways. And all of a sudden, I had a tool that could document the challenges that led us to where we are today. And what are those challenges? We know that America has evolved into the incarceration capital of the world. That means then that we have the largest prison population, higher rates of recidivism. And we also know that there's another piece of the puzzle that Michelle Alexander helped to unveil through her research and her advocacy, the impact of collateral consequences or those hidden sanctions when one is charged with a crime. So all of a sudden, the new Jim Crow was highlighted, tabbed, and I carried that with me wherever I went as I was working on my clients' cases and also on policy reform. Why was that important? Because this well-researched nonfiction book all of a sudden helped me to understand some of the challenges that my community is facing, while at the same time giving me the tools to bring forth change in meaningful ways. The second book that I'd just like to highlight is called The Warmth of Other Suns. And in addition to The Warmth of Other Suns, I hope you will also read Cass, Isabel Wilkerson's second book. Let's start with The Warmth of Other Suns. Why is this well-researched nonfiction book important, and what's its significance related to its impact? For me personally, it was extremely significant. It gave me a sense of not only who I was as far as the legacy of my community here in Rondo, my hometown, but it also gave me a sense of how my community and my family ended up in the Rondo community. And I will never forget the day that I met Isabel Wilkerson. And we were talking about my family history and how we ended up in this area in Minnesota. And admittedly, I said, I really didn't know. And she continued to ask me questions, as a great researcher does, about how long we had been in the Twin Cities metro, who moved here first, where did we live, and all of a sudden, what emerged was a deeper understanding of migration patterns that were personal to my family, that explained how we were in the Twin Cities for many generations, and in particular in Rondo. And what did migration really mean for my family? All of a sudden, it was more than just a story that was told after Sunday dinner. It was something that I understood in the context of history, that migration was about the possibilities, the hope for the future, and the dreams that my ancestors had for us. For us. When I say that, I'm talking about for the next generations that they did not even live to see. The possibility of migration opening up the doors and windows of opportunities to economic mobility and social mobility, for political power, for access to entrepreneurship, to home ownership, and to build close-knit, community-centric, and culturally specific communities where everyone could learn, grow, and thrive. That's my Rondo story, but I would not have fully understood it without understanding America's great migration story as a result of Isabel Wilkerson's well-documented book that helped to outline migration patterns. So I hope you're getting excited, and I hope if you have not read these books that you get a chance to read them as well. So what's our next step after we're thinking about the importance of this piece of research and nonfiction writing? I hope we can also start to think about what are some of the methods and strategies on obtaining credible resources. Notice I said credible because we all can obtain plenty of resources, but to ensure that they're credible is another step. So before we get there, let's think about where do we find these credible resources. So one of the ways that we find them, of course, we can use online research. And as being an educator myself, sometimes my students would jump immediately to think about what Wikipedia said, for the first thing that came up in a Google search. But let me give you some hints and clues where you can find wonderful nonfiction resources. One resource that is invaluable, both in person and online, is the Library of Congress. You can use the search engine to find a multitude of resources to support you on your research journey. You can also go to your local library and use many of the databases, whether it's related to concrete research that you're looking for, historical documents. You can use the resources in your library and the support of your librarians to help you on that journey as well. So why are credible resources important? Remember, as I outlined, when I'm looking at a book, I'm going back to those endnotes, those footnotes, and those source notes to find additional resources to further establish or bolster the case. And when I say case, the topic that I'm working on. So having things well documented can support the next generation of researchers to find additional information and cross-reference the information that you have provided. And better yet, as they continue their research journeys, to build upon the information. Because one thing that I love about nonfiction writing, that it continues to evolve as we find more information, as we help to set a greater context related to the topic at hand, it continues to grow organically. So it leaves us with the question then is, once I found some resources, how do I evaluate them? First of all, you want to look at whether or not it is an opinion or a fact. It's vitally important to be able to identify the difference between the two. With the fact, of course, you're looking at those primary resources to get a sense of what's the background of the person that I'm researching. Or if you're looking at a point of time in history, What's the context? What's my timeline? So you're looking at evaluating primary sources that can document the research question that you're exploring. As far as authority, you are looking for instance, if you're doing research about a particular person or time period, maybe you're looking at some of the authority from an academic press that's documented the topic at hand. Maybe encyclopedia is where you start. Oftentimes, I start with Encyclopedia Britannica, and especially since I write a number of works for children, the kids' version of Encyclopedia Britannica. And another resource that I use quite frequently is National Geographic, because I'm oftentimes talking about places and I'm oftentimes talking about the context of relationship between the environment and nature as well. You want to make sure that you're looking at the accuracy of the research that you're finding in the resources. How can you verify that? Once again, does it cross-reference other citations related to the work? Is it written and is it current in its format? You want to make sure that you're looking at that as well, that you're cross-referencing once again with current research and information. And you're also going to make sure that you're not looking for an op-ed piece. Sometimes an op-ed piece, of course, is readily available, but is it objective? Who gave the authority around verifying the accuracy of the information? So I want you to, when you're looking at a document, when you're looking for a resource, that you're assessing its credibility, both at face value and also, I always take an additional step to be able to substantiate where did this information come from. And I can tell you one particular example of this. I was looking up a research question and exploring some of the ideas, and all of a sudden I kept seeing one footnote that led to the same place. And then all of a sudden I kept going to that same place, but I was like, that's an op-ed piece. That's not a documented piece of research that I can evaluate, check the authority or the accuracy. And clearly it was not objective. So guess what I did? I continued on my research journey until I found the type of primary firsthand resources that could document the question at hand. So I want you also to think about, as you are gathering these research documents, that you're making sure that you're adding the proper citation. Now, there are some ways that you can do this. Of course, for me, in many instances, I still use index cards, handwrite my notes, or put in a Word document. But there are also online resources that you can use to create a database of all the documentation for those primary credible resources that you're finding. The added thing that I would encourage you also to be aware of as you're beginning this journey of nonfiction writing is to understand how you will cite your resources. So this can depend. Will it be MLA? Will it be APA? Which type of style will you use to help cite your research? Is it Chicago style? So make sure you're clear with your editor, or make sure you're also looking at the particular genre that you're working in to understand the citation style as well. So I hope these are enough tips to get you started on looking for the resource that you need to go on this adventure of nonfiction writing. So this is only the beginning. This is searching for the resources that you need. This is making sure that you're finding those credible resources. And one of the things that I also gave you an invitation to do is to read some of the nonfiction works that inspire you or related to your topic at hand, to look at how they're organized, look at the writing style, and of course, to look at and document the journey on research as well. Thank you.